The Object 590 is in the Blitz shop for only a very limited time, and obviously that is a trick to make you buy it quickly without thinking about it, so we're gonna do the thinking together now. The 590 is in here. I'll look at the tank in a second, but first at the bundle. 10,000 gold right here. What are the inclusions in the bundle? We have equipment right here, which is very nice, is worth a million creds or some of that sort. Obviously, you can grind creds very easily though, however. Then the 5 collectible containers, what are they worth? Well, they're worth all the things at the bottom right here, the common boosters. That's what they're essentially purchasing, because the chance for a tank is very low, so you're not really getting anything. You're also only getting 5 of them, so you need 7 to get 1,000 gold, so that's also not happening right here. So if it was 7, you would have a guaranteed 1,000 gold. That is not the case here, so we're having a value of, let's say, less than 1,000 gold for these 5. Then a camouflage right here. Camos, I personally don't value add anything because they're customizations. They don't actually add any performance or anything of the sort to the vehicle. So any camo is worth exactly as much as A, you're willing to pay for it, and B, what the cheapest camouflage in the shop costs down here, 75,000 credits per slot, or 225,000 credits for the entire 3 of them. So that's what every camouflage is worth, unless you ascribe a personal value to them. Then avatars are worthless because they don't do anything. It's another customization that's pretty much just there to inflate the price of the bundle without actually adding any value. However, then we have the boosters right here, which do add value, which is very nice. So essentially, we have perhaps somewhere between 1.5 to 2,000 gold worth of actual value besides the tank in here, which would make the tank cost 8,000 gold, which is not really what it's worth. So first of all, with that. But now, let's have a look at the vehicle itself. It costs 7,500 without all the fun. So, not a great price for a vehicle like this. It should be 6,000 for the performance that it delivers. Now let's have a look at the statistics of the 590, comparing it to some other Soviet medium tanks that are pretty much worse than it. Now, before someone writes down in the comments, oh, there is no bad tanks, every tank can be played well, that is simply not true, because the best performance in a bad tank is still going to be much worse than the best performance in a great tank. So there are big differences most of the time. The biggest differences do come from the players and how the players translate the vehicle's statistical performance into actual performance. However, there is still, by the statistics themselves, a big difference between vehicles. However, in the firepower department, it's not really that apparent, because the DPM and penetration are Soviet medium tank tier 8 typical. Bad standard penetration, which makes them not really great at earning credits, because you have to fire premium rounds more often than if you had, let's say, 230 standard penetration, like a Lorraine has or something like that. So that is not really great. So you would want to have better standard penetration on a credit earning premium tank, because that means you have to fire less of the expensive premium rounds, which are relatively good at 240 millimeters right here. So not too bad. The alpha damage 280 is right in the middle. The 274A has 310. The STG obviously has 400, but the STG is an awful vehicle, and it's about on par with the T44-100, so nothing special there as well. The weapon handling is aim time a bit worse than the rest of them, especially in the STG, which has insanely quick aim time, doesn't make up for the rest of the vehicle being absolute garbage. The dispersion is pretty much the same as the others right here. A 3% difference is not something that you're going to ever notice in the battle, so ignore differences like that. Pretty much that, like a 3% difference in dispersion doesn't make a difference at all, especially when the movement dispersion of this vehicle is better than the rest of the vehicles right here. Obviously, the aim time, though, is not very nice. But one of the big upsides of this vehicle, and one that is going to put it apart, is the 8 degrees of gun depression, which is 1 more than 2748 and 2 more than the ST62. So that is already a big advantage, because this vehicle has good turret armor, so you can go hull down and play ridges a lot better than with, for example, an ST, because the difference between 6 and 8 degrees is quite significant, especially the difference between 8 and 5 is even bigger. You don't want 5 degrees of gun depression. You never do. Then the mobility, the top speed is pretty much identical between all of these Soviet media tanks, and the mobility is also very similar across them. The STG has a little bit better effective power to weight ratio on regular ground, but that is pretty much it. It, again, doesn't make up for the awful tank otherwise. Normal traverse is 43 degrees, 48 on the 2.7, so it does traverse a little bit quicker, but the average regular mobility is pretty much the same across all of these vehicles as well. And the armor is where this thing stands apart quite a bit, because it has 200mm turret armor, 94 on the hull, so that is where it is going to elevate itself above the other vehicles. Now, here's the thing. These stats down here, they don't mean much most of the time. I mean, sure, a difference between 55 and 46, that is a significant difference. But between 51 and 53, that tells you nothing about the actual performance of the vehicle, especially if the sample sizes are that small. So ignore stats like these for the large amount, because they aren't conclusive unless the differences are massive, like, for example, almost 10% here between the T-44-100 and the Object-590. So, yeah, I mean, nobody's going to claim that T-44-100 is a good tank. Nobody's ever going to do that, right? Now, in the armor department, like I said, this is where the vehicle sort of stands apart as well, combined with its 8 degrees of gun depression, because if you go hull down, you can pretty much almost hide the cupolas, and they do go up to over 300mm in some spots, and are pretty hard to pen. 200mm right here that you can go through with pretty much really decent tier rate as well, so you're gonna have to still keep this vehicle moving as well. But if you're in a medium tank and you stand still, unless you're firing, you're playing it wrong anyway, so keep that in mind. Now, the turret armor at the front here, obviously below the gun, any vehicle that has a rounded turret has this weakness, where below the gun, obviously because the gun has to be mounted in the front, it has to be rounded down and becomes flat. So right next to the gun, you have about 200mm in some spots. But again, it is a very small portion of the turret that you can essentially mitigate if you are constantly moving the vehicle back and forth, so that it makes it harder for the enemy to hit you. But if you're on flat ground, you have these two big cupolas on the back that can be hit as well, so keep your vehicle moving and try to play this vehicle somewhat hull down. The front plate has 94mm, which does go up to 230 on flat ground, and if you go hull down, it pretty much becomes impenetrable for tier 8. But on flat ground, you will force a lot of tanks to use premium ammunition right here, especially medium tanks, even if you're on flat ground. So 230 right here. The sides are 80mm, so you can side scrape quite a bit. As you can see, you have 400mm. The problem is the turret is actually mounted on a extrusion of the hull, which means that you can be penned very easily here. So again, you need to keep the vehicle moving to hope that the enemy isn't going to hit your weak spot right here on the side, because otherwise you're side scraping, and you have a great hull right here on the side to side scrape with. It even goes 300mm still at an angle of 17 degrees right here, but because the turret is mounted like that, you will have this portion right here, right below the cupola, where you can be penetrated relatively easily. So watch out for that as well. So overall, it is a good armor profile with a couple of cracks in it that you can sort of mitigate if you keep the vehicle moving at all times. Off into battle with the 590. Obviously, on this map where you can't use the gun depression, which isn't really that nice, but let's see what we can do anyway. Maybe we can use some of the side scraping right here in this vehicle. Now we're gonna go forward here, CS63, just like that. Use the side armor, and now we have already control over the train yard right here, which is very lovely. Side scrape off that one. Obviously not gonna be very effective though, if I peek out that wide. But let's see. Obviously have to watch out for that angle right there. I know the HWK and the CS are right there. He's trying to side scrape, but it doesn't have the right turret armor. So we can just pin that very easily, and we have to just, again, watch out for that angle right there, which he didn't, so... yeah, great job. So we'll have to see if that guy tries to run away, because yes, he is. He's not trying to run away, he's trying to run into me, he's trying to get himself wrecked, which is a bad idea most of the time, so goodbye. And here comes the HWK and the SU. I was trying to use HE there to finish him off, but I didn't need to, so we're just going to use that instead. And now I'm going to actually back out of here. I'm going to try to use the CS as cover instead of the train, because the CS is a better cover, because I can fire over the top of the CS here, as you can see. Whereas with the train, I can't fire over the top, so that's a worse piece of cover. So he's not going to go for it, he's not going to push, so that now means he just fired, and I can go for him, and goodbye. So that's basically just how, if you're good at Blitz, you'll start to realize it, that I can take the CS's corpse as a cover, which is going to provide me the ability to fire over his engine deck, rather than going for the train where I can't fire around it. Those are all the kind of things that you'll eventually learn if you pay attention enough, and if you play the game enough, and eventually, once you've done that, you can stop caring about your performance and just lock in at a default performance, but maybe not. Let's see what we can do. The Tiger's pushing the Defender. I want to go in here because the T-4E2 exactly has just thrown away. Very beautiful. And now I want to go for the T-28 Defender because he's sort of the bigger threat. And he's also easier to fight because he's currently isolated where the AMX and the Tiger are sort of playing together. And he's also being attacked by the AMX as well, who's very low. So I'm going to have to help out the AMX here. Please don't low roll. Thank you very much. And now what we're going to have to do is we're going to separate those two apart because the team has decided to completely flunk it. Now, what I want to do here is avoid the Tiger while taking out the MX's clip, because the clip is very bad. Because if I fight the Tiger, then the MX is basically, at some point, going to just swoop in, clip me from the back while I'm fighting the Tiger, losing hit points to him. So that's not what I want to do at all, so I want to focus on this guy first. And obviously the aim time, again, could be better. And 700 hit points, that means I'm going to need 3 shots to finish off the MX, which is not ideal. And now the Tiger is okay, that's not good. And again, I cannot fight the Tiger because if I fight the Tiger, the MX is gonna sit up there and fight me. So we're gonna get the hell away from there and never fight both at the same time. Obviously, the MX just completely threw away. And he also got himself clobbered unnecessarily by the SU-152. So, okay, here comes the MX because he knows he can clip me, basically. And the Tiger is also after me, so if I fight both of them at the same time... Obviously, I'm the only person on this team that actually achieved anything because I'm on 5 kills. But let's see if the MX is gonna approach. There he is. I'm gonna get spotted from that, which is not great. So I'm gonna go drive through here. Obviously, the MX is gonna wait. I'm gonna drive away. What I'm gonna do after I'm unspotted, you already know what I'm gonna do when I'm unspotted. I'm gonna go this way. Gonna turn around. And let's see, because obviously the problem now is this is Himmelsdorf, so you can't play very tactically here because everything's a flat, annoying surface. And this could be a mistake. Like, if the MX is still waiting there, he could see me knocking down that wall. So you wouldn't want to do that if you aren't sure that the enemy isn't looking at you. But in this case, I can be pretty confident. Now, the problem is as well, because a lot of these Tier 8 Soviet medium tanks are very bad DPM, I can't fight the Tiger on a DPM fight either, so that's not great. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to do that. I mean, this is essentially unwinnable if they have any form of competence, but I can drag it out. I have to play this with, essentially from, well, let's see, if they have any sort of competence, because essentially I need 4, maybe 5 shots on the Tiger, and 3 on the MX without that being returned. Basically without 1 less than an AMX clip, so we're gonna have to go up here. Oh, that didn't work, because he dipped down. And the Tiger is right next to me as well. They are sort of competent. Here he is. Gonna go for the track. So he can't peek over, but he does have a repair kit. That's why you use 2 repair kits, kids. And now I'm dead. Because essentially impossible. Alright, let's try and side scrape. Bounced. He's got 2 more though. I bet maybe he only has 1, but that means I'm dead. So, yeah, Himmelsdorf for everyone. 5 kills, 590. If I had a team, it could have worked. But, either way, yeah. Well played there. I mean, anyway. I don't want to buy your shitty pop-ups, Wargaming. So, let's play another battle. Alright, this time on a acceptable map, but it is a tier 9 battle, so with the 182 penetration, that could be somewhat funny. Now, they got a T-54, a Panther, and a Defender 1. The T-54 could be somewhat of a problem with the 182 penetration, especially in the turret. And the hull, if he's not entirely stupid, but this is Bliss, so let's see. We also have 1 medium not knowing how the hell to play the game, which is also very lovely. 46 ban, lol. Here's the Defender. That's not great there for you. And we're getting some assistance damage as well from the spots, which is always very useful. I mean, we have a Victorous, so that I'm getting the spotting damage and he isn't is kind of funny. And we have 3 people sitting in this damn corner instead of someone taking the friggin' initiative. So that's gonna have to be me, unfortunately. Okay, let's see if any of them have any balls, if they're competent. No, they're not. That's great, so we're gonna have to stay here. Because, I mean, it's a 4v1. But they are now moving. Beautiful. Here's the Panther shooting at me from the bush, or the Defender as well from up there. See, I don't want to be the guy that gets shot at, so I'm gonna go the other way. I mean, I could get shot at by, yeah, that. But 225 is less than 310, so I'd rather get shot at by a Defender or a Panther than by the T-84. So, remember that. Guess if they don't have any balls, I gotta have to do it. So, sometimes trading away hit points for position is very useful, especially when you have teammates that hate getting shot, that don't understand how to play the game. So sometimes if you trade away hit points to get a better position, your teammates might follow you or are gonna follow you, and that way you're gonna have a much better time at winning, because they're gonna get into a position that you need to be in. And yeah, they all still all have their hit points, and they're nice and cozy over there. There's a stock DTH. I mean, I just assume that he's stock because they're all stock. So I don't think I've ever seen a fully upgraded one of those. And yeah, let's just see what we can do here. Obviously, that position is very annoying for them to play, because that means I can't swoop around and go for the Panther and stuff. So that's the HE, that's the turret armor. Beautiful. Panther might cross, so that's what we're gonna wait for now. Obviously, the DTH is very low. And, because if I cross, obviously I'm gonna get shot by the Ferdinand, because he's probably sitting up there. So I'm gonna try and peek that. I have this tree, which might provide cover. Somewhat. The Panther did cross just as it was firing at the Ferdinand. That's beautiful. But now he's still just staying there. Hello. If you ever pay attention in the game, you're already doing much better than everyone else at that point. So I can go around. The Vickers wants to cuddle me, so I'm gonna drive around this side because I can attack the Panther from here. Or not. And the DTH just throws away, and now it's only 4 of them left, with the only hit point one being the Panther, and the Defender is easy to take out. Okay, now I'm gonna side scrape off this side of the house, or maybe not, because he just fired. You don't need to do that. But here's the thing. The most important thing in Blitz is to adapt to the moment, right? Don't be stuck in your previous ways. Don't live in the past like so many people do. You need to adapt to the current situation and then react accordingly, all right? Ferdinand just fired on the Progetto. I know he's reloading. I know he's reloading longer than me, so I can just sit here. I can reverse. I can pen his lower plate, and there we go. So is the vehicle good? For Soviet media tank standards, yes it is. But overall, 7,500 I think is a little bit more too expensive for this vehicle. So if you really want a Soviet medium tank and you don't have one, this is probably the best one to get. But if you want to grind credits, if you want to play for maximum performance, this might not be the most ideal vehicle.